Hi everybody, my name is Paul and this is a new sort of YouTube show that I'm going to be doing over the next few months. Basically I'm going to be reviewing any up and coming metal releases in 2013 and also I'll be going back and looking at some of my favourite albums of all time and potentially a lot of albums from 2012. So from this first review I want to review the best album that I've already heard this year, and the reviews that I'll be doing going forward is that there'll be a wide range of bands from all across the metal spectrum, from thrash to death metal to black metal to grindcore to metalcore to deathcore, progressive, you name it. So the first album I'm going to release for this show is the new Stone Sour record, The House of Golden Bones Part 2. Now, as many of you know, I'm sure from this band, is that without going into history about Corey Taylor and the other band that he's involved in, we all know that. This is the follow-up to the critically acclaimed House of Golden Bones Part 1, which again I think was an absolutely fantastic record, but for me this one takes it up a notch. The first album was very diverse. There was a lot of heavy songs on there was a lot of melodic songs on there was a lot going on, but this Part 2 is probably, I would say, a lot darker than the first one. And again it goes through many different sort of styles, many different moods throughout the album, because bearing in mind this is a huge concept record that Stone Sour wanted to do, and in particular Corey Taylor. So the album kicks off with a song which is Red City, which opens up very melodic. It's a very dark sounding song to the first album on the record, and it's got some really good vocals. This is probably, out of all the releases I've heard from Corey Taylor, this is probably his best vocal performance, I think, on this album. I've always been a big fan of his lyrics, whether it's Slipknot or Stone Sour. But I think on these two albums, The House of Golden Bones Part 1 and Part 2, I definitely think that I think they're the best lyrics that he's written of his career, and also in terms of the delivery of his vocals, I think they're probably the best. But again, this is a really good track that I open up the album. It's very sort of slow, very sort of brooding, menacing type of vibe, very melodic. When it goes into the chorus, it's quite a heavy sort of chorus, but then towards the end of the song, it goes almost into familiar Slipknot sort of territory, very sort of slow, doomy riffs, and some really good screaming from Corey Taylor, so that sets it up nicely for the whole album. Next song is Black John, which sounds a little bit more upbeat. It's got some really good riffs on there. And again, it's just another great track on the album. There's many great tracks that are on this album, but the ones that I found out particularly for me that I found the best was there's a track called Gravesend, which also reminds me of Black Sabbath. It's got a very sort of doomy sort of type vibe. It's got a sort of alteration between Corey's vocals, from clean vocals to the aggressive type of screaming, and the riffs on that song are absolutely phenomenal. The other favourite track of mine is probably the actual title track, The House of Golden Bones, which is the track that closes the album, and that's for me almost very sort of straight up metal. It's got some amazing solos on there from Jim Root. It's a really good record, so it is an album that I would strongly recommend, and if you're a fan of Stone Sour, then you won't be disappointed within this record whatsoever. Again, I think it's probably the best album that they've released, and I do think it's the best of the two albums between Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1 was fantastic, but for me personally, this album is amazing. So if I was going to give a score out of this album, just out of 5, and I would probably give it 5 out of 5, because I do think it's a masterpiece, to be honest. But feel free to add any comments and any suggestions. If you've got any suggestions of any albums that you'd like me to review going forward, then please let me know, and I'll aim to do so. Thank you.